Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports' very own Keith Jackson and Scott McDermott. Guys, how are you both?
Good, Daniel.
I thought that was going to be Daily Record's very own Ant and Dick.
No, I haven't seen you both since Germany, so you've made it back in one piece.
Just about, yep. We're happy place is a distant memory now, sadly.
I can hardly remember being there now. Look, now we're sitting here drinking water, back in the office. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. And do you know something? The worst bit is I'm just actually sitting to write something for tomorrow's paper. Just now, it's becoming, it shouldn't be, the pain should have subsided by now. It should be easier. We should just be like watching the rest of it and enjoying it. I'm struggling because every time I turn on the telly and I watch a Slovenia or a Romania or Georgia, I'm thinking, why did we not attack this tournament the way that they are? And instead of just being able to enjoy watching what they're doing, I'm finding myself raging that we failed to turn up at the tournament when everybody else has fully embraced it. It's still raw, man.
I think Jacko's right. It's I think the overriding feeling now is anger. When we left Germany, it was more disappointment and
going to miss Garmisch.
Rejection, sadness, obviously, but Garmisch. But I think it's anger now. I says to Keith just before we came on earlier that we're the only team in the tournament, the only team that qualified for the tournament that didn't actually take part in it.
Aye, that's a good point, aye.
And that does make you angry, because what an opportunity we had.
The thing I'm finding so frustrating about it, Scott, I don't know about you, is that, you know what, the jeopardy part of it, the pressure part of it, was qualifying to get to the tournament.
Yep.
Everybody else has then, right, we've done that bit. We can now just go and throw ourselves into this, launch ourselves, you know. Who cares? Who cares if you take 3 scuddings and you get sent home early? See, as long as you actually took part in the games, you gave it your best shot. And we didn't do it, and everybody else is doing it, and it's becoming a real pain in the arse.
But also see the amount of time that we've spent discussing, obsessing over tactics and formations and 3 at the back, 4 at the back, and can we play 3 at the back? No, we Kieran Tierney out and all that. I'm watching Slovenia against Portugal. We just went 4-4-2. Literally just went 4-4-2. 2 strikers, well organised, disciplined, playing with desire,
committed,
passion, organisation. No, fighting to the death. All right, they lost in penalties, but what a fight they put up. And I tell you what, during that game, although Portugal were the better team, obviously, they had more of the ball, because of the 4-4-2, Slovenia were a threat constantly because they had 2 strikers up there. No, so few teams play 2 strikers now, so you know it's a risk because you're a man down in midfield. But that's where the coaching comes in. That's where proper organisation, proper structuring comes into play.
I don't think that we can say that Steve Clarke hasn't properly coached his side, or isn't a proper coach, and doesn't work on the tactical side and the positioning and the shape. He does all, of course he does. I think it comes down to a mental attitude at the end of the day, that we were scared. We looked scared of our own shadows at the tournament, and everybody else is just going there to have the time of their lives. And that's the saddest. I'm not over it.
Well, look, I should say that your mood is mirrored, I think, by a lot of the people sending us questions and leaving comments, particularly in the Record Sport Facebook page. I've got one up on the screen there. Jamie McDonald: why can other smaller nations like Croatia, Uruguay, Slovenia and Austria all regularly build dynamic international sides that compete at tournaments?
Did you say Uruguay?
Did you say Uruguay? I know. I don't think he meant specifically Euros. They're a dark horse for the Euros, I reckon. And he also, Biff Green, we could do with the Georgia coach. They overachieve while we underperform. Slovenia and Slovakia made it too. It's as if we have an inferiority complex winning the big stage, which kind of touches to what you were saying there, Keith. Why is it that these other smaller teams can seem to rise to the occasion, but we can't?
I'm afraid, and I hated to say it, because I'm fully appreciative of the job that Steve Clarke has done. Before Steve Clarke, we were watching all these tournaments from day one on the telly, stuck at home, or I was over there covering them, watching everybody else have a great time, wondering what it would feel like, and wondering when we might ever get the opportunity to watch our team. So I thank him, and we've all got to thank him for that, because before Steve Clarke, that was a distant memory.
Uh-huh.
And it's great to be there. But I just wonder, you know, I wonder what he's thinking now. Is he kicking himself for being overly cautious? Does he go into it with too much trepidation? Was he too worried about what it might look like if you get a spanking off Germany? Well, we did get a spanking off Germany. The only problem is we didn't lay a glove on them. At least if you're going to go in for a fight and you're probably going to get beaten, well, make sure you land a few blows before you hit the deck. You know, we've not thrown a punch at that tournament.
And the danger is, Daniel Keith's right, the job Steve Clark's done in getting us to 2 straight Euros is incredible, because it seemed so far away when he came in 4.5, 5 years ago, whatever it is. But I also think there's a danger now that we just accept that it's great getting to the tournament. It doesn't matter what happens when we get there.
But
we cannot become that.
That's got to be the flip side. What happened when we qualified for every tournament back in the day, when we get, you know, every World Cup, we were there, well, do you know what? If you went there and you get sent home before the knockout stages began, then the guy paid the price, the ultimate price. Now, I don't think I'm not ready to pull the plug on Steve Clark. I wrote a piece when we get back saying, do you know what? He's actually got enough credit in the bank still to make his own decision, but he has to be honest. He has to be honest. He has to look at the players he's got, what the squad is going to look like over the course of the next 2 years, and ask himself, is he really the man to push them, or has he taken them as far as he can? And he has to be honest. And he's actually deserves the chance to ask himself that question, but we need him to give an honest answer. And by the way, if he turns around and says, you know, I know that I've made mistakes here, I know that we were too cautious, I'm not going to make those mistakes again. Yes, it'll sound as if we've heard some of this before, but I'll back him on it, because he's earned that trust and faith.
I agree with you. He has earned that trust, but unfortunately for him, I think the fans are turning a wee bit. There was so much goodwill because of these qualifications, and you look at the fans in Germany, how many there were, their attitude towards it, the atmosphere they created, unbelievable. But those performances, man, have just, you know, they've really turned the supporters, I think. And the problem for Steve Clark is
he's now going into the Nations League and will likely get scalping.
It would almost be better if he was just going straight into a World Cup qualifying campaign. But he's now got the Nations League, where you've got Poland, Portugal and Croatia, who at this moment in time all look like miles better than us in terms of our recent performances, 1 in 12 or whatever it is, we're recent for them. If you take a couple of downs early doors in the Nations League, I just wonder about the supporters. And that's been the great thing about Steve Clark. He said it himself. There's that connection back again with the team and the Tartan Army and him. We've got used to turning up at Hampden every game, 50,000. You take it for granted. Whereas a few years ago,
you're looking at 12, 13,000.
Honestly. So that's the danger, not only for Steve Clark, by the way, but for the SFA as well, when they're looking at his position.
Well, look, I could have cherry picked a slew of comments from the Record Sport Facebook page. I've got one on the screen there. Gary Kinlock: should Steve Clark be fearing for his job with just 1 win in 13 matches? Alan Beveridge: Clark needs to answer why we didn't have a shot and goal and why he doesn't believe that players are good enough to play in the front foot. This one as well. Ian Robert: the fact we were depending on a penalty to pull a rabbit out of the hat tells you everything you need to know about how the whole tournament was played. The nation deserved better. I definitely think, like you said a minute ago, Keith, I'm obviously, it's still really fresh in my memory, Scotland not getting to tournaments. So I'm almost still grateful for the job that Steve Clark's done. But I think you're right, Scott. I definitely feel, I know social media is not the be all and end all, but I definitely feel that there's been a bit of a tide change.
Yeah,
of course there is. And it's hard to launch much of a defence for Clark, other than to point to the fact that he is the guy that has qualified. But we haven't taken part, as Scott said. We didn't turn up for this tournament. We didn't turn up for the last tournament.
He also told fans specifically, we've learned for the last tournament, and we will be better.
And they showed no sign. The same mistakes were made. The exact same mistakes were made, even to the point, and I hate to do it because why not, dropping Billy Gilmore for the first game. I mean, it was almost as if he said, right, what was all the mistakes we made in that last tournament? Let's do it all again.
I really enjoyed that feeling. Let's do it again.
Well, look, see, just to play devil's advocate, to go into the actual games themselves, I think the less said about the Germany game, the better. But Switzerland, we played pretty well for large periods. Thought it was a good result, and you look at how well Switzerland have done. And Hungary,
that was us turning up.
Aye, exactly.
That was us turning up. That was the Scotland that we had gone into that tournament hoping to see. But we
Aye.
only did it for 90 minutes in the middle game.
Mhm.
Again,
And even
that's
then,
exactly what we did in the last Euros. We turned
Aye.
up for 90 minutes in the middle game.
but even then there's a glaring, and it's no getting on Andy Ralston, but even then there's a glaring mistake in the game that costs you. It
Aye.
costs you a goal, and ultimately costs you 3 points. Do you know what I mean?
Well-
And you're Dan, you're saying about the shots and and that's a big thing. It's what we're saying earlier about not taking part in the tournament. There's just no excuse for you look at the other teams and the way they've attacked it, the way they've played with freedom.
And by the
Georgia,
way, these are teams that don't have players playing at the level that our players are playing at. And that's the bit that
Georgia's got a joint top scorer at the tournament.
it's incredible. Don't.
Well, actually, you make a good point there, Keith. I've got a comment here from David Ross. How much blame should be placed on Scotland's underperforming players? McGinn, McTominay, McGregor, Robbo. Did any play well at all? I mean, these are players that Champions League, Premier League. You know,
I'll give you another.
brilliant players.
I'm not going to make an excuse for these players because the bottom line is John McGinn's come back for that tournament and his highlight was putting on a hat and doing a funny dance.
Aye.
That's John McGinn's going to have to square that one with himself. That'll be hurting him. Of course it will, because these guys will have went into this tournament thinking, what a stage, what a platform, what a chance. Now, were they spooked by it? Were they scared by it? Were they too up for it? I don't know.
Why were they crippled with this fear? That's what
Or there is an argument here, especially when you look at some of the bigger nations, and I'm not classing us as one of the bigger nations by a long stretch, but we have got guys playing in big leagues. These bigger teams, the bigger nations, they all look a bit jaded, most of them. Not Spain, not Germany, they're the best two teams at the tournament. But the bigger nations,
France and England.
France have been really mediocre. England have been shambolic. But again, listen, we sat, not saying we told you so, but at the start of the tournament, obviously Scott predicted that England would bomb in Germany. In a classic slap.
They have to be fair.
But you know, I said that they'll not get anywhere. They should be one of the favourites for the tournament. They've got a squad of one of the most talented squads in Germany for this summer, but they've got a manager that's got the first idea of how to put them together and make them a team. And so, for that reason, I didn't expect England. By the way, we're talking. They're still there.
Yeah.
We're not. They're still in it. They've now got Switzerland, and do you know that wouldn't it be the most Scottish of things? Switzerland put them out. Switzerland beat England, and we take some credit that we do with them.
Aye.
You know.
Do you know what? There's some similarities between Scotland and England though, the way they're playing. It's almost like this British thing of cautious,
Players the handbrake on.
Players no being let off the leash. I mean, if England didn't,
It's almost like overcoached, isn't it?
If England didn't have a world class match winner in Bellingham, they boot the tournament.
Aye.
And obviously that's what we didn't have a player at that level to produce big moments. But I think there's actually similarities in the way they're playing. And as Jack will say, I'm not making excuses for our players, but when you think of that, the fear that they played with playing within themselves, and you ask where does that come from? I genuinely believe some of that has to come from the manager. Some of that has to come from within camp, the way you're set up, the way you train.
Too rigid.
It's too rigid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
It's too rigid. It's too structured. It's almost a case for saying, are we now looking at being overcoached?
Yeah.
When you're looking at your Georges, look, lads, here's your structure. It's pretty simple. Just go out there and play and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, don't over. Steve Clark did say, did he give them too much information before the Germany game? You wonder, are they going out there thinking, well, I can actually, I'm going to get, I could lose my place in the team here if I'm 5 yards too far to the left, or if I'm, I don't know.
I'm watching the Austria game last night. Austria-Turkey were 2 Rangers goals.
Just hell for leather. Let's have a ding dong.
I'm watching Austria the last 10 minutes. And also they're trying to get a goal. But the runners for midfield, they're just guys bombing on, breaking lines constantly.
No.
I'm trying to think of any moment in any of the Scotland games where I seen a midfielder going beyond
anybody.
the front man. And it's Casey. It's almost like I can't make this run because see if I don't get the ball. What's behind me?
Well, if you're sitting in the classroom with Austin McPhee tomorrow and he's going through, where was my position in there? Am I going to get a slap in the body? I don't know. Maybe we're simplifying it.
Exactly. But listen, we don't know.
But we are scrambling around trying to find reasons.
Yeah.
Because logically, we should have been so much better.
Yeah.
Logically, we should be able to do what all these other teams are doing,
Mhm.
and we failed, and it's not the first time. So you have to then start examining, drilling down and saying, well, what is it that we're doing wrong that they're doing right?
Yeah.
Because we've got the players now. That
Mhm.
was an argument when we couldn't qualify. Well, we don't have very good players. Gordon Strachan was fielding a Scotland team that was just full of championship players. If you were playing in a championship side in England, you get a Scotland cap. Well, that no longer applies. We've got guys playing in top leagues, top countries. The talent is there. So it's a failure in some other department.
We've got better players in Georgia.
Of course we do.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking about managers. It's just something that came into my head there. But I mean, Willie Samuel, the Georgia manager, I remember genuinely, I don't know if you'll remember this, but about 7-8 years ago, he'd had a couple of agents working for him in the UK, one in Scotland. He was scrambling about genuinely trying to apply for the St Mirren job.
Well, he's ended up in Tbilisi.
Aye.
It's even worse than Paisley.
But he's obviously got something. He's obviously got something about him. Because granted, he's got Fitzgerald, who's obviously the star man, and that helps when you've got a genuine kind of world class talent. But the players run about him.
But look at again, Ralph Ranić. The difference he's made to that Austria side.
100%.
And it's heavy metal stuff. It's go out there and just run the legs off these. And it doesn't look, I'm sure there will be loads of coaching and loads of shape that's going into it. But I think things frustrating, I think that we're all finding frustrating is it seems to me to be more about up there.
Yeah.
The attitude, the mentality, the bravery to go out there and play. And we look frightened of our own shadows over there, and that's
again
sore.
I'm not gonna go at the players, but again, I'm saying to Keith earlier on, we listen all the time to our players and management. We also listen to people out with Scotland talking about Scottish players and the Scottish team playing with passion and desire and commitment and all that. I'm sorry, but if you compare it to the way Slovenia have played, Turkey have played, Georgia have played, we're nowhere near that level of commitment and desire.
No, these
effort
guys,
for me.
Romania's as well, they're throwing themselves into tackles, hurling themselves head first at the ball at shin height and all that. They're playing like madmen.
The Turkish guys playing in one leg last night. Seriously, I think they get lulled into that kind of, we're Scotland and we'll play with this kind of brave heart.
Passion, aggression and all that.
Is it really? I mean, you look at these countries,
we've gone from brave heart to faint heart. That's what we've done.
That's a good headline.
Well, Kevin Roxburgh on Facebook Live at the moment, and thanks for everyone leaving the comments. I've put the comment up there. Do you think the British are not streetwise enough? All other teams seem a lot more mature. Is that a fair point? Maybe.
Nah.
No.
Okay, that's a tired thing that I've heard for years and years, and we used to talk about it for our clubs went into European competition, and some guy would dive to win a penalty, and we'd be outraged, and that's what they called streetwise.
Harry Kane's is streetwise.
He fouls and wins a foul at the same time. Every time he goes up against a defender, he commits the foul, then falls down and gets given a free kick.
By the way, so is John McGinn. He's credit.
Yeah,
he's one of the best in Europe. Getting
brilliant. No, Andy Robertson, Champions League. No, that one's not going to wash. I'm afraid it's something else. See, I'm glad that we're all having a looking for the answers, but that one not for me.
Just to play devil's advocate, sorry Scott, but just on going back to the Hungary game. Having said all this, although we were dreadful against Hungary, I think is fair. We should have had a penalty, and we score it, we probably go through. I mean, I think Clark let himself down a wee bit with Argentina.
UEFA come out and explained that it wasn't a penalty kick.
Would you guys think it was a penalty?
I was screaming for it.
I think it is a penalty now. I must admit. I mean, I've kind of flip-flopped on it because at the game live,
I was screaming.
I thought it was a penalty.
Two of us were up at our
I'm
seats.
convinced it was a penalty. Then we watched a couple of replays on the screen, and you're thinking, nah, Armstrong's got a hold of him, making a cuts across him. No, we don't think so. But the more I watched it when I get back, and you obviously see the knee into the back of Armstrong's calf, it definitely should have been a penalty. But listen, it is of course unlucky. I think Hungary could argue they could have maybe got a penalty.
Listen, do you know what?
In that game,
This is splitting hairs. I mean, so what? We got a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, brilliant, great. We'd maybe get a shot on target. That shouldn't mask how timid we were throughout the whole thing. Yes, you can have that argument, but would anybody really have been delighted? Yes, we would have taken it, but would you have actually looked at the group stage performance and thought, we've set this tournament fire here, we've got through as a third place side before point? No, you wouldn't. You'd go, what happened? Where did you go? And you'd be hoping that maybe now we've got that monkey off our back of getting through a group stage, that we'd go into the knockouts and have a proper go. Maybe that's it.
I also don't like, what I didn't like post-match was Steve Clarke's comments about this was always a one-goal game. I hate that. Why is it a one-goal?
It's the only one-goal game there's been at the tournament then, because everybody else is going hell for leather.
I've not heard any other coach at the Euros talking about potentially a one-goal game. And my argument against that would be, well, see if you do think it's a one-goal game,
and you go 1-0 down.
Why? Well, see if it's a one-goal game.
You've told your players, by the way, it's a one-goal game, guys.
Right, lads,
Up the road.
Listen, if it's a one-goal game, can you not go out and try and get a goal in the first 10, 15 minutes?
Exactly, aye.
And then hold on to what you've got. If you think that's how tight the game's going to be, I would argue go hell for leather the first 10, 15 minutes and go for the jugular, try and get that goal, and then you sit back.
Listen, what this tournament should have taught everybody, and we're all having to watch it, and by the way, having to watch it, I say that again, forget that Scotland were even there and you might be able to enjoy it, right? But what we're seeing is the teams that are getting right out, get in the front foot, get aggressive, they start to dominate, even when they're up against quality. I mean, the other night, Holland against Romania. Romania came out the traps, and Holland, to their credit, they survived it. The Romanians were pressing the life out of them into the last third, getting right up against them. And Holland, because they've got a better quality of player, were able to survive that and eventually play their way out. And halfway through the first half, they got the opening goal and then they took total control. And that's well done, Holland, right? But see, for that opening 25 minutes, they were made to realise they were in a game of it. And if Romania had sneaked a goal at that point, who knows how that game turns out?
That's the thing about going back to the punters, Daniel. They just wanted something to cling on to, the Scotland fans. They had nothing. I mean, I was thinking about it to be in here. They must have just got home from Germany feeling totally empty.
It's almost a little bit embarrassed. They've went there, no Scotland, no party. There's millions of them. They've put on the show, but people are looking going, what's this team? What is this you're following?
Were they filled with real pride at the performances? No, I wouldn't have thought so. Were they filled with frustration because we didn't get what we deserved? No. Just empty.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just nothing. And that's honestly, that is a crying shame that we've all come back for Germany with nothing to cling on to. No big moment. No. I remember we were travelling to Munich for the first game against Germany, and genuinely I'm thinking to myself, it's the biggest, probably the biggest game I've ever been to or ever covered. And I'm thinking, you're supposed to be professional, right? But see if we score or we go ahead or we answer win the game, I think we're going to be up.
All over the show.
Try and control ourselves here.
It's difficult because
then we just sat for 3 games, never got a first week win.
In fact, to tell you the truth, the process that you have to go through, that's a live match report, we call it. And it's late at night. It was like an 8 o'clock kickoff UK time, 9 o'clock over there. So you've got a match report to fill. So you're sitting with a laptop, and yes, you're trying to be, you've got a professional because you've got 1,000 words to try and get. So you're sitting typing away. But yes, there are moments if Scotland did, then you need to get composure, get back down, write this, put it into some sort of English. But that actually, that became the easy bit, because it was easier to sit and write than it was to watch what we're having to watch. You thought, I can take my mind off watching this rubbish because at least I've got something to do here.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you were just sitting there watching it as a fan, you'd been going out your mind.
See on that, guys, obviously it's the pinnacle for an international player to be at these tournaments. But you kind of said it there, Scott, for a guys working in sports media, this for you guys must have been, one of the highlights of your career. I mean, how does
we
it?
had a brilliant tournament. Me and him hand in hand, we had a brilliant tournament.
We performed magnificently.
We left nothing over there. We gave Garmisch our full tilt.
Left it all on the pitch.
Exactly. Aye.
But Keith, how do you? I know you've been on a lot of trips and stuff. How does this one rank with other ones that you've been on?
Well, it's different because it's the first one since
The best because I was with him.
Aye, it goes without saying, Scott. Obviously, aye.
it's the first tournament abroad since '98 that we're there to follow Scotland, right? So that makes it special. And you know, I'm going to have a lot of good mates. Unfortunately, the football ruined the trip. Football did. Just because the games just were such a disappointment. The Switzerland game aside, we were celebrating a 1-1 draw. Yep, magic. It was the point that kept it alive going into the last game. But I mean, there's the bottom line as well. How close did we come to getting beaten with Switzerland? And the third game wouldn't even have mattered. I mean, we were already the first team to leave the tournament.
Because Switzerland had better chances than that game.
So, yes, listen, it was brilliant, and it's brilliant to be there covering a Scottish team at an international tournament. Of course it is. But it's just, it's a bad one when you come back and you're kind of full of regret a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and we did the bit in that Hungary game where we go into the stadium and I'm saying to the wee man, I don't know what we're doing. And we're on, we've got the hotel booked in Stuttgart for that night. But we've got two options in the morning. We're either going to the train station and making our way back to Garmisch and Toy Town and Happy Place, or we're going to Frankfurt Airport. And you've not got a clue, so you're going to the game with your bag for your 3 weeks worth of kit and all that. Not got a clue what comes next. And it wouldn't have been, listen, I was, pleased to come home, see my wife, family, brilliant, great. But it would have been nice. It would have been nice to go back to Garmisch thinking we've got 4 or 5 days, however many days it would have been to sit here and prepare for, is it France, is it Spain, is it Portugal, who are we getting? And could you imagine the excitement levels of that? And we did speak about this, Daniel. We'd have been the first Scottish guys, of all the guys that have done it, of all the guys that have covered Scotland in tournaments, we'd be the first set of journalists to be there writing about Scotland going into the last 16. And that so yeah, I regret that, but there's nothing ultimately we could have done about that. We've had a great tournament in the meantime.
Before we send everyone away reaching for the toasters and a hot bath, let's try and finish in a small positive. Gaz Miller here saying, okay, the Euros weren't great, but Clark's been a brilliant boss and deserves a crack at getting us to the World Cup. And he makes the point, you've got Ferguson, Doak, Patterson, Hickey, Conway all coming through. Is this an opportunity maybe for Clark and Scotland to kind of start again with a kind of new, vibrant team?
Refresh it.
I think that will come into when Jacko talks about Steve Clark going away and being honest with himself and asking himself whether he can take this team any further. That will be a huge part of his thinking. Is the next crop? Is the next crop good enough? Does he look at? You're saying, does he look at Doak, Patterson, Conway, because they're the kind of the younger ones? Does he look at them and think, right,
this lot will make it better?
They're genuinely good enough to take us to a World Cup?
Or does he look at it?
It's harder to get to a World Cup.
Does he look at it and think, if Callum McGregor decides or is encouraged by Celtic to take a step back from the international scene, which, by the way, at his age and given that he's playing about 70 games a season, it wouldn't surprise you. So does he look at it and think, oh, have we got a ready-made replacement for? Or does Lewis Ferguson, if Lewis Ferguson comes in, does he make us stronger or weaker? Because he's a very different player for Callum McGregor. So how do I accommodate him into this? What am I looking at with London Dykes, Shea Adams? They've not been good enough. Well, say that London Dykes obviously wasn't fit, but is there an option there that makes us better?
There's also a dearth of centre-backs. Young centre-backs.
Will Ben Doak get a game at Liverpool? Because if he does, you've got a chance. Could Ben Doak be the answer as a centre forward? Again, that would require a big transition in the way that you want your team to play, because we're set up to have a powerful kind of physical striker. Could we adapt? Could Steve Clark adapt to make Ben Doak
how does
our central striker?
How's Kieran Tierney when he finally gets back? Where's he end up playing next season? It won't be at Arsenal. There's loads of these unanswered questions, but I think all of this will be going around the manager's mind.
But I come back to it. If Steve Clark looks at all these things and decides that yes, I think, in fact, I'm confident that I know how to phase in the younger players. I do believe that they're going to make us better, and I believe that we can qualify for a World Cup and then actually put a performance in when we get there. If Steve Clarke says yes to all of these, ticks every single one of these boxes, then we've got no choice. The guy has more than earned it. So you say, right, Steve, but now you're really going to have to do it.
Yeah.
But there is the opportunity here for a bit of a refresh. There are a younger generation coming through. I wish there was some more. I wish there was an outstanding big centre forward, but doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
I wish we had 2 or 3 centre halves just now that you looked at and go, oh, by the way, this boy's going to be class in 3 or 4 years. That would be my concern from Steve Clarke. If I'm stuck with what I've got, and they're 2, 3, 4 years older than what they were when I took the job in the first place, where do I go with this?
Right, guys, quiz time. No, I'm only kidding.
Have you got a clip of the Highland Cows? Can we any more of that?
Let's switch to Daisy live. No, I'm only kidding. Guys, I get the topic is a little bit depressing at the moment, but it's always a pleasure to speak to you both. And who knows, hopefully we'll be doing more of these hotline lives in the future where Scotland are a bit more, or hopefully win a game. That'd be good, wouldn't it? But listen, thank you.
Could be a while.
Could be a while, aye. Listen, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. And thank you very much for watching at home. We really appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, Daniel.